Perfect. Okay. Well, Joe, we're recording this for you, okay? Obviously, you'll have lots of questions for us, so I'll try to get through most of this, okay? Everything went really well. Had a tear in the rotator cuff like we thought.
Okay.
It was a small tear, but had gone all the way through the thickness of the tendon, so we had to sew that back together. Just had to use one of those little anchors to do that. So the rotator cuff came back together very nicely. The tissue was good, so hopefully it'll heal very well for him, okay? The biceps tendon looked good. That was a question for us about what the biceps would look like. The tendon itself looked good. It had some bruising along it, some redness along it, so it had been stretched a little bit, but there was no tearing in the tendon. And as I kind of pull this model out as we're recording, are you on video? Or just recording?
Video.
Okay. And so, if you remember, Joe, we showed you on that MRI, that biceps kind of hooks into the top of the socket up here. The labrum's not on here, okay, but normally the labrum is there, and the biceps hooks into that. Where that hooked up, there was a little bit of some wear and tear, but there was no big tear, so we just trimmed that up, and then your biceps was nice and stable, so it was pulling on something that was stable. Okay, so we didn't have to do any work in the biceps, which is good news for you. We kind of had a long talk about that. Okay, so we cleaned that up for you. The other thing that I noticed is, you had the fracture in the socket. There was some wear and tear in the cartilage in that area, some loose pieces we had to go through and kind of trim up. Okay, made that nice and smooth. But that really had healed back together very nicely, so not to worry about that. Other than just some arthritis is going to be there down the road. Okay, we can deal with that when it comes. And then we went above the shoulder, had a pretty good sized bone spur up here. It'd probably been there for a while. We shaved the bone spur out, and then you can see the rotator cuff on the top, and we sewed that back together. So bone spur came out, cleaned out all the debris up there, and then sewed the cuff back together. When you're looking at these pictures, okay, so this first one here, this is actually where the tear in that rotator cuff is right here is kind of the hole for it, and I'll show you some other pictures to demonstrate that, but that's where the tearing is along there. This is your biceps tendon kind of here in the back. There's a little bit of some redness along the tendon there, but again, the good news was there was no high-grade tearing there. Had some wear and tear on the socket side here and the ball side here. That's kind of what this little fuzzy stuff is. Part of that was probably from the accident, kind of the trauma from hitting that definitely does cause the injury to the cartilage. That's probably where most of that came from. This is kind of the area where that fracture was right in through here, and that has healed, but you can see you have some wear and tear on the cartilage on top of that, which would be from the incident. Okay, and we just went through and trimmed that up for you, but unfortunately, you're going to be missing some cartilage there. Okay, this is kind of another picture looking just along the ball side with some of the wear. This is after we went through and trimmed things up. This is actually where the biceps hooks into the labrum. That looks good. There was no tearing there. Just a little bit of fraying here, but no tearing way up into here. Okay. This is me actually putting a little metal tool through where that tear is in the rotator cuff, which again, the tear is here. Okay. And then when you come above up here and kind of look, this is where we actually shaved back the bone and the debris. This is where the rotator cuff should be. So this should actually be over here. So we clean all this up for you, back to a nice bleeding surface. That way when we pull this back, it'll heal to it. I'll kind of leave both of these out. And then as you look here, this is looking at the shoulder from above. Here's the rotator cuff here. This is kind of where the rotator cuff tearing was up here, and I'll show you a better picture of that. As you look through here, this is again kind of where some of the bone spurring stuff was. So this big kind of piece up here is a pretty good sized bone spur, okay? So we went through and shaved all that out. And I apologize, this is actually bone spur. I was looking at the wrong part. This is actually the bone spur, this is the bone spur, and then we basically come through and shave that off. Now this is the picture where the bone spur, basically this is gone. There's more space in there, okay? This is me looking at the tear in the cuff. So there's the hole in your rotator cuff. Here's another view of it here. So not a big tear, but definitely one that went all the way through and needed to be fixed. This is that little anchor that I put into the bone. There's the stitching material. And I take this and pass it through the torn cuff. We tie it down. And then basically this is after we've fixed your rotator cuff inside the joint. So before, you had the hole here. This is the same picture after we've sewed the rotator cuff back down. Okay. And then this is looking at your cuff from the top where the stitches are. That's all that shows you.
Wow.
Okay. So that's it. So it went really well. Unfortunately, it's going to be a long road. I'm going to give this to you here.
Okay, thank you.
So you have to wear that sling with the pillow for 6 weeks like we had talked about.
Okay.
And then let's see, today's Tuesday, so by Thursday we'll have you start with physical therapy. Okay, and then I'll see you back in the clinic in 2 weeks. Troubles in between, you call us. And then our girls will give you some information about the pain medicines and the dressing care, which is very easy. I would tell you with the pain meds tonight, get home, get some food on board first, and then just start with 1 Percocet. And then 2 hours later, do 2 ibuprofen. And then 2 hours later, do 1 Percocet again. 2 hours later, 2 ibuprofen. So basically every 2 hours, go back and forth. 2 ibuprofen, 1 Percocet.
Okay.
If you need it, you can go up to 2 Percocets, but I would just start with 1. Okay.
Okay.
And that nerve block will probably wear off in the middle of the night like it usually does. So about 3 or 4, your block might wear off. So it's nice to kind of have stuff on board before you get there. So I'd probably set your alarm clock.
Okay.
for taking those meds tonight. And then tomorrow, after that, first couple hours of the block being off, you can start to scale back on the meds.
Okay.
Yeah.
And icing is
Ice is great. Use a ton of ice. And so
On
when you
and
use
off?
the ice, on and off, about 10-15 minutes, maybe get one of those little gel packs to put over the top of this, and that'll make you feel a lot better.
okay. No
Yeah.
heat, just ice.
Yeah, don't use any
Okay.
heat. The heat tends to bring more swelling. Okay, and then the sling, leave this on all the time, including when you sleep. Sometimes patients like the chair better than the bed, but either one's fine with me. If you want to take a break from the sling, just set it up on a pillow. If you're sitting in a chair, you can set it on a pillow and take the sling off. Otherwise, if you're walking or sleeping, have your sling on. You just don't want to lift your arm away from your body. So you don't want to do this on your own for 6 weeks. The arm just stays in the sling,
Okay.
and you don't want to push up out of a chair. Those are the two big things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So
You're a movie
sorry,
star.
Joe. Sorry, Joe, you had to go through all that stuff, bud. But you'll be in good shape. You'll feel a ton better. This was why you were hurting. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, that's